Rohit, is my video on?
No, it's not on.
Okay, now?
Yes. You can start.
Yeah. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you, wherever you are logging in from. Welcome to the MMA webinar series 2020. As we continue to bring to you curated and rich insights in collaboration with industry experts, marketers, and partners. Today's session is hugely valuable, given the digital-first world we're all living in. The topic being using artificial intelligence and data to transform marketing. This, we believe, is a short way to improve marketing performance and drive revenue. Given the cohorts it can create and given the predictiveness it can bring in consumer behavior, purchase patterns, surely does increase the impact of the marketing program and enable optimal acquisition and retention. This session is being led from the best in class in customer intelligence, clubbed with Marketers Speak, where the techniques have been successfully tried and tested over and over again. So before we get started, let me share a little bit about MMA with you. MMA is, as an ecosystem, engages partners from across the industry, be it publishers, agencies, marketers, or tech enablers. In India, we also are represented in a similar fashion, for that matter, across all markets. We engage the advertiser, publisher, marketer, and the tech enabler, because we believe the entire ecosystem has a part to play in this in mobile marketing and digital marketing. We serve the chief marketer whilst we bring the entire ecosystem to represent, but we serve the chief marketer, enabling a win-win for everybody. The core mission of MMA is to accelerate transformation and innovation through mobile and drive business growth and impact, ensuring consumer engagement. Our mission is we enable the same through inspiration, know-how, research, measurement studies, and advocacy, like every other trade body. We have several think tanks and groups which come together and work closely with us to shape the future and bring to the industry the best-in-class solutions and thought leadership. During the current times, we have been sensitive to the COVID scenario and have also launched the COVID Marketer Support Hub, which is a central resource to help the marketing and tech industry and maintain and drive sustainable businesses during these difficult times. That's our way to support and be helpful to stay relevant to the industry and the MMA members. You can visit the hub and consume all the curated content or contribute to it. As I move along, I want to give you a quick overview of the upcoming webinars and encourage you to attend the same. We essentially also are running a weekly series which happens on Friday, and it's called There Is No Playbook for This, as we believe there isn't one. And hence, as an industry, we come together every week to understand the new normal, learn from one another, and borrow references and anecdotal information. All our sessions are geared. As I move forward, our programs, as I have already mentioned, are run by working groups, and there are several to choose from which you can be a part of and which you can engage with us on. That brings us to the webinar today. A few housekeeping rules which I'd like you to follow. There is a questions toolbar in your dashboard. Kindly log into it to ask as many questions as you would like. However, ensure you put in your name, your title, and the company from where you are attending for us to be able to contextualize our answers and ensure that we're able to address them adequately. Whilst I hand it over to the speaker, let me first have the pleasure of introducing today Anindya Datta, who's the CEO and founder of Mobilewalla, which is a leading consumer intelligence company that provides data and intelligence to drive better AI. He claims he's a movie buff, a book lover, and loves playing golf. A book he highly recommends is The Big Sleep by Raymond Chandler, and you may want to check it out. Mobilewalla operates globally with particularly strong customer footprint in Southeast Asia, India, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan, and works closely with leading telcos, FMCG companies, and e-business providers. So without further ado, let me hand it over to Anindya to lead the session for us. I know it's 5:30 a.m. there. It's a super early start. So thank you, Anindya, for making the session happen. And it's over to you now.
Thank you, Monica. So welcome, everyone. Again, as Monica said, it's 5:30 a.m. So you can imagine how excited I am for this session. So let's get started. So Monica, how do I advance the slides?
Yes, we've given you screen control, Anindya.
You have, okay.
Yes. Would you like us to take it on?
Yes. What's my up and down keys don't work. Would you?
Yes, we can do it for you. Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's go to the first slide, the title slide, the stage of the presentation. All right. So the session is on how to use AI and data to transform marketing. So the structure of the presentation is that I was going to sort of talk first about the usage of data in marketing, which is fairly accepted now, and then go on to sort of how AI is impacting marketing outside of the standard data users. So let's get started. Let's go to the first slide. So the fact that data is useful in marketing is no longer in debate, right? So there's much evidence that using data helps organizations in a variety of ways. For instance, this quote from McKinsey says that data-driven organizations are 23 times more likely to acquire customers than non-data-driven companies, and significantly more likely to retain their customers as well. Moving on. So as I was saying, so there is consensus among marketers that marketers must be driven by data, and we'd be hard-pressed to find a single marketing organization today that is not using data at all, right? Perhaps there is a difference in the degree of usage of data, but pretty much everybody from simple email lists to complex sort of AI strategies using data to drive marketing functions. Now, what's interesting is that the increasing use of data in marketing over the last 5, 7, 8, 10 years has been concurrent with a number of key industry trends. And I just wanted to look at those trends. The trends sort of at a high level are, as with time, customer interactions with brands have grown more complex and customer journeys have grown more nuanced. These increasingly nuanced and complex customer journeys have vastly increased availability of data. And along with the availability of data increasing, there has been a lot of tools made available, technology tools, that enable sort of working with this data. So let's look at each of these trends. Next slide. So this is nothing that the participants in this webinar will find sort of strange. 15, 20 years ago, the average consumer typically used 2 touch points when buying an item, right? So basically you could buy an item from a website or walk into a store and buy, right? And of course, 15 years ago, we were at fairly early stages of using e-commerce, but it existed. Now, on the other hand, as you see on the right side of the screen, the customer can interact with brands in very complex ways. I'm not going to sort of name the laundry list of all the items, but you can imagine that the number of ways that a consumer can buy something from a merchant can be many. I mean, literally infinite, right? I mean, you could view an ad, then watch a video on mobile, download an app, and then buy. Or, you could watch a tutorial for something, then get a banner ad because somebody, the merchant saw you watching the tutorial, walk into a store and buy. So literally many, many, many different ways. And this customer journey complexity, next slide, leads to significantly more data. So the two panels in this slide sort of show you the base reason for that. So we are more connected than ever, leading to more customer journeys. And at every connection point, what we do leaves a digital trace, right? And so we show the big three here. Google is watching what sees what you search for. Facebook sees what you share and like. Amazon sees what you buy, watch, and listen to, and everything you do leaves a trace. And this data becomes massively valuable to understand who you are, understand what you do, and organize your experience in such a way that A, the experience is better, and B, you are more likely to transact with a merchant. So concurrently with more complex customer journeys and the arising of the vast amount of data that results from it, the solution space, the technology solution space to handle this data has also gone up a lot. One way of understanding the technology landscape in MarTech is using this. I'm sure a vast majority of the webinar listeners are familiar with this. Basically, we're showing you a snapshot of the marketing technology landscape. And this landscape, it's basically each entry in this landscape is a technology solution. And they're bucketed across a bunch of different classes, right? I mean, which in this picture is shown in colors, advertising and promotion shown in pink, management and data, the data tools in particular at the center of the picture is shown in blue, right? So you can see in the sort of the 6 classes of how the MarTech space is bucketed, data is an important class. Next slide. Interesting to know that of all the point I was making, among all the classes in MarTech, right? All the different classes and the thousands of solutions, the highest growth subspace has been data, both short and long-term, right? So looking at short-term growth, if you look at between 2019 and 2020, sort of the left panel in this slide shows you the growth rate across the different classes. You can see the data kind of significantly beats the other classes in growth, right? So the data growth across from 2019 to 2020 in the most recent 1 year was over 25%, whereas the space grew an overall of 13%. Right? And if you look at long-term growth, from the time that this visualization has been available, 2011, even from 2011 to 2020, the growth of the data subspace has been the highest. In particular, the number of data solutions, well, actually here, just for fun, I show you the data subspace in 2011, sort of in the right panel, there are sort of 2 figures, right? On the left, you see the 15 solutions that were shown in 2011. And on the right, of course, is the near 1,300 solutions now. So number of data solutions has gone up 55 times, right? So, and again, this is my point is that this is basically, solutions follow problems, right? So this basically is in response to the significant increase in data and the ability for marketers to do more with data. Next slide. And, and in tune with these developments, the enterprise market has reacted as well, right? So data solutions represent some of the largest marketing technology M&A deals in the past 2, 3, 4 years, right? And if you look at the acquisition price of those deals, acquisition price is typically one of the strongest indicators of adoption. The more a solution has an adoption, typically the higher amount is paid for it. So just to show you, the two largest, highest dollar value MarTech deals in 2019, which is last year, were data related, right? When Salesforce acquired Tableau for nearly $16 billion and Google acquired Looker for nearly $3 billion. In fact, the largest 2018 MarTech deal was also a large enterprise company buying a data company where SAP acquired Qualtrics for $8 billion. And of course, many of you in this call are familiar with many other notable M&A deals in the past 24 months that were data related. It was Salesforce buying Crux, or Salesforce buying Datorama, Oracle buying Moat, Oracle buying Grapeshot, and so on, right? So all in, sort of, all basically put everything together. I just wanted to make the point that being data-driven in marketing is a given. The fact that data is important is no longer in debate. And from whatever angle you approach this question, I mean, it's marketing and data are sort of very, very deeply intertwined. Moving on. So
Great.
Yeah.
So we have a poll. Yes. Yes, Anindya, take it.
Yeah. So let's move on.
Anindya, what we'll do is we'll quickly launch the poll.
Okay.
And we'll give the users, a little bit of time on sort of answering it. So as you can see on the screen, the question is, what is your maturity level around collecting and leveraging data? We've given them 3 choices, and we will end the poll in a couple of seconds. And Anindya, maybe you can share a view on what you think about the results we see on the screen as I publish it, and then we can move forward. Yeah. Okay.
So Monica,
we do see a lot of quick answers.
The poll results will be visible, is it? You'll show the results?
Absolutely. I'm just going to share it. If you'd like to just give it another second or two, I'm going to share it now. Yeah. So Anindya, do you see the results? So what we see, and for the attendees, let me call it out. So in terms of in descending order, we have a tie actually between access to limited data and continuing to work on our strategy, and on internal and external data sources that have created a single customer view. There's a tie there. So Anindya, what are your thoughts versus the last choice, which was a good handle on the data within?
It's super interesting, Monica. So about a year, maybe a year and a half ago, I was in a panel where a very similar sort of poll was done. And here you can see about 25%, close to a quarter of the people saying that, hey, we are using internal, external data, and the rest being split between we have data and we have limited data. So clearly, the last time I saw it.
Lose sound?
Monica, can you hear me? Hey, Monica, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So
yes.
Okay. So clearly, the percentage of, from that poll to this poll, the percentage of respondents who said that, they're already basically 36 plus 25, almost, close to 65%, close to 2/3 of the respondents say that they have access to data, or they are comfortable with how they're using data. That's definitely up quite a bit since I saw it last time. And again, it's nice to sort of see it after there is no debate about data in marketing. I mean, that also practically from the audience, it sort of shows that usage of data is basically increasing and getting more sort of rampant in the marketing crowd. It's great. All right, so moving on. So the next thing I just wanted to touch upon is that we so far we talked about, hey, data, the fact that data and marketing are extremely closely related, or that marketing needs to be data driven and not in debate at all. So what kind of data do marketers use, right? So this is typically a standard industry classification, and I thought that I'd touch upon it and kind of show you sort of how marketers observe the relative importance of these classes, right? So the types of data that marketers use are typically classified into first-party data, second-party data, and third-party data. So I'm sure most of you know what this is, so I'll just move over this very quickly. First-party data is your data, right? So if you are a rideshare company, or if you are a luxury retailer, you are collecting data, or you as your customers and prospects engage with you, they leave traces of what they do. I mean, that data is your first party data, right? Because that's happening inside your ecosystem. Second party data is the first party data of a partner, typically, right? So you have a supplier, for instance, or you go and buy the customer interaction data from one of your vendors. That is typically known as first-party data. So first-party data is also data collected inside the ecosystem of a partner. And then third-party data is basically data that you buy from the open marketplace, right? So this is and typically third-party data vendors are vendors that collect data from a variety of sources, including from the digital ecosystem to the users directly, and then aggregate this data, put this data together, and create artifacts that go and enrich your own first-party data for you to do stuff. So that's typically the classification of the data that marketers use. And going on to the next slide, so I find this super interesting. So how is the importance of this data? How do marketers sort of think of this data? Next slide, please. Hang on, guys. I think yes. Yeah, so this is the slide. So it's, I have actually shown this in many cases, right? So you can see, and this is a slide that sort of, so clearly you can see that, and this slide ranks sort of data sources in order of importance of usage and usefulness. So you can see that clearly first-party data is considered the most important, very closely followed actually by third-party data, right? So, but 49% of respondents were saying that, hey, first-party data is something that is super useful. And 42%, which is not too far off, said third-party data, and then second-party data, right? So typically this is in most, at least, in the case of, if I put my Mobilewalla hat on, and when I see people using data, it's most often third-party data, enriched first-party data, and the asset that happens when that results, right? That's what most marketers end up using. All right, so moving on. So there is another poll. So Monica, I'll stop.
Yeah. Yes. So what I'll do, Anindya, I'll launch the poll and then you can continue. We will get back to it when we have the results. The users will get some time. So the poll here is about what is your biggest challenge with data? Is it getting access to own data, getting access to data in other parts of the business, finding additional sources of quality data, or combining data sources to create a single source? So those are the choices. We'll give them a little bit of time and we'll probably move to the next slide. I'll share the results in a bit.
So Monica, just alert me when you're sharing, so I'll stop talking and then wait.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So we have talked about data and marketing, given you a very brief look into sort of how typical marketer use data is classified. Now we are going into usage of data, right? So what do marketers do with data? Right? So typically data is used in analysis, right? I mean, data is used to perform analysis that drives marketing actions. Typically, the types of analysis that data helps in doing can be classified into deterministic. Some people also call it descriptive. You'll find both sort of in the industry. So let's call it deterministic in this presentation. So you have deterministic analysis and predictive analysis, right? So deterministic analysis basically is looking at history. Both are looking at history, but deterministic analysis looks at historical first-party data to produce aggregated metrics, which are useful in understanding sort of underlying patterns in the business. Right? And so mostly doing historical sort of, so you've done three things before, you see the effects of those three things by slicing and dicing the data that resulted as a result of your actions before. Where predictive analysis is typically using various techniques like data mining, statistics, modeling, machine learning to predict the future. Right? So these are the two types of, deterministic analysis looks at what happened in the past, and of course, for you to choose actions in the future. And predictive analysis is basically trying to predict the future itself. Moving on.
Fantastic. So Anindya, on that note, the results may make even more sense because the highest number of votes are for combining data sources to create a single view, followed by finding additional sources of quality data. So those are in that order, and maybe you may want to validate these results for our viewers.
Yes. So one thing that, again, that jives. So Monica, the results kind of went away. Okay. So
I can reshare it.
Yeah. So just as if you just let it be there for like 15 seconds.
Sure.
So,
of course.
So one thing that is again, very encouraging for people like me is, look, I mean, almost for nobody, getting access to their own data is a problem anymore, or getting access, basically less than 10% of the entire webinar attendees basically are saying that they have problems getting first-party data, which is fantastic, right? So 3, 4, 5 years ago, just having access to first-party data itself is a problem. That basically shows you how much the industry has moved. And now, once people have their first-party data sort of under control, effectively, and in this webinar, we are not talking about this, but it's very well known sort of, the limitations of first-party data and why you need data from external sources. So that basically we are moving on to the next stage in sort of data ingestion analysis of getting external data and then combining the data to form enriched data sets. Right? So coming back to deterministic and predictive analysis. So deterministic analysis, as I explained before, sort of reveals historical patterns, right? So deterministic analysis reveals sort of, hey, based on the sales that I've observed on different days of the week, which 2, 3, 4 days or one day do I get the most sales in, right? Or if you're a telecom company, which zip codes are providing me the highest data usage? Or for a retailer, which zip codes generate the most revenue for me, right? And these lets you plan marketing actions based on the metrics, on the analytics that you get. Predictive analysis, on the other hand, answers futuristic questions, right? So classical, and this is something that you'll see when Nikola presents later. So predictive analysis answer questions like, which customers are most likely to churn in the future, right? So if I have, for most sort of direct-to-consumer vendors, customer churn is a huge problem, right? So you are always trying to figure out in the current quarter, in the next 6 months, which one of my customers are likely to churn, and so that you can take sort of anticipatory actions to prevent that from happening, right? You build predictive model that tells you that, hey, on my weakest sort of shopping days, right, these are the products or these are the classes of products that if I put on sale or provide a discount, they're most likely to impact my revenue number on those days, right? So again, just reinforcing what deterministic and predictive analysis are. Moving on. So deterministic analysis sort of reveals the performance of approaches marketers have already taken. So again, I gave a number of examples, and the idea is to take advantage of the right decisions you've taken in the past and the wrong decisions taken in the past. Where predictive analysis paints a picture of the future, allowing marketers to preemptively take actions to shape it, right? Who's going to churn? These are the prospects that I can acquire. Who should I acquire that brings me the most value? And so on. Moving on. So vast, just 1 second on the previous slide, please. So a vast majority of current marketing actions are based on deterministic analysis. This should come as no surprise to anybody in this session. And we are sort of moving into the era of predictive analysis, which is, of course, a significant topic of this discussion. Thank you. Next slide.
Should I? Okay.
No worries. So let me, I know what the next slide is, so I'll just keep talking. Just take your time. So the next slide, basically the point we were making is that where predictive analysis in marketing is sort of the next phase. Here it is. The basis of predictive analysis, which is AI, machine learning, statistical sort of prediction, right? That is the importance of that has been well realized sort of in many different parts of our lives, right? So just some numbers, so Gartner predicts that by 2021, which is year and a half from now, the end of 2021, 80% of emerging technologies will have AI foundations. The worldwide spending on AI systems is growing very fast. If you just look at in the innovation ecosystem, if you look at the types of new companies that are getting funded by venture capitalists and private equity, you'll be hard pressed to find a single technology company in any domain that somehow is not incorporating predictive modeling, AI, machine learning into their offerings, right? So and of course demand for AI talent has doubled as well. And even for marketers, you'll know that virtually 90% of the pitches that are being made in the CMO's office, whether from vendor, whether from internal, a lot of pitches looking for investment, looking for support, have AI factored in somehow. So while predictive modeling, predictive analysis in marketing sort of it's at relatively early stages, the spread, the adoption of the underlying technology that is going to drive predictive analysis is quite widespread. Moving on.
Yes. So we have another very interesting poll in context of what you just spoke. And it's about what is your maturity level around AI adoption? We new to AI and still trying to implement. Have we started using AI but have not seen return on our investment yet? We've been using AI and have started to see some benefit, or we've built internal competencies and are using AI effectively to drive business. So we can wait for the results, or Anindya, you may set context for what you're going to share with us next till I share the results and give the users a little more time.
That's right. So now what I was going to, and there is a quick poll after this as well, Monica. There are 2 polls back to back. So I'll just set,
Right.
I'll sort of set advanced context for what we are moving into.
Perfect.
Now, so where we have arrived in the webinar is sort of, setting the stage in a way, right? So, again, recapping what I spoke about thus far, effectively, I first claimed and hopefully proved or hopefully demonstrated that the adoption of data in marketing is no longer under debate, right? So data and marketing they are together, right? Peanut butter and jelly. So next, I sort of talked about the types of data that are used, followed by sort of the types of analysis that marketers typically undertake using data, right? So and eventually the conclusion is data is sort of super important. data is typically classified into first, second, third-party data. And as we saw in the second poll, it's very interesting that, there is no, so first-party data, so almost everybody, 90% of this audience is comfortable with their first-party data, which is a major vindication of the importance of data. And sort of people are moving on to the next phase of using data, which is in fact 35% are already getting some sort of third-party data in. So into that, and then sort of setting the stage for the immediate next step, which is talking about predictive analysis, right? So predictive analysis is the next phase. Here, yeah, the results of this poll, guys, are very much what I think I and everybody else would expect. The usage of predictive analysis is relatively low. 55% though are trying to implement. We are, but they consider themselves new to AI, which is encouraging for me, or at least, if I wear my Mobilewalla hat, right? So we would like everybody to use AI so we can work with everyone. 55% of attendees are actually considering the usage of AI. I mean, they're new, but a fairly small number are actually, far enough ahead, I think, where they would classify themselves as proficient. But it's very encouraging for me to see that 55% is trying to use AI. All right, and then Monica,
Absolutely.
we have, I think, the final
Yes.
poll.
Yes. So that's going to keep our users really tested, where we're really trying to understand knowledge and understanding of AI and data. So I'm going to launch the last poll before we continue, which talks about the biggest challenges to AI adoption. Is it internal understanding of benefits and uses? Is it internal skill sets and the ability to hire the right skills? Or is it access to the necessary breadth and depth of data to make it effective? Or is it finding the right use cases and where to get started? So I'm sure, everyone is at different stages.
Yeah.
Yes.
Naturally from the poll,
Yes.
and most people are trying to use it but not proficient. Yeah. All right. So
Absolutely.
So now I think at least I move into the part of the discussion which is sort of the most interesting. It's no longer, it's talking about how AI and data sort of come together to solve marketing problems, right? So whenever you guys are ready, we can.
So we can quickly wrap up the poll. We do have the results, and then you can take over the next module. Would you like to help interpret this one?
Yeah, again, this is also quite interesting. I was expecting a larger variability among the percentages, So if you see it, the smallest is 21%, the largest is 36%. So in a poll if you account for errors, I mean, it's almost split equally across, right? Almost. So the biggest challenge to AI adoption appears to be finding right use cases. So which really jives in well with the next parts of the presentation, because that's what we're going to be talking about, use cases. But
Fantastic.
interesting that it's roughly equally split. Okay, so let's move on to the use cases. Next slide, please. Okay, so here, this is what we're going to talk about, right? So data and AI sort of coming together to address sort of canonical marketing problems. And to be absolutely honest with you guys, if I could do a webinar that I control like up and down, this is what I'd spend the entire time on, right? So this is for the most interesting part. And unfortunately, we don't have enough time to get into all these problems. We'll try. But of course, you can ask questions, you can come back later. And at least for me, this is sort of super interesting, right? So we'll talk of sort of 5 problems in which every marketer will identify with. Sort of high value customer identification and modeling. Who's my highest value customers? Acquisition and retention. Segmentation, advertising, attribution, and market research, right? So we'll get into each of these and show a quick case study from this talk is very, and this webinar, of course, the point is not to be salesy at all, but this is the only place where we'll bring upon my experience to show you some of the problems we have solved. Okay? And the point is that I'm not really selling, but just trying to show you examples of using predictive analysis. Okay, moving on. Let's take each use case. So high value customer identification and modeling, which is probably one of the biggest issues of any marketer, especially in B2C, business to consumer context, right? direct to consumer context. So it turns out that all customers are not created equal, right? In most businesses, in fact, I probably talked to 100 companies in the last 2 years, and this is true for like 99 of them, right? In most businesses, it turns out that a small fraction of buyers contribute an outsized amount of revenue. The classic 80-20 problem, 20% of customers contributing 80% actually turns out to be more skewed in some cases. And because of this phenomenon, it is important for a business to understand the nature of this high value customers, so build portraits of them so that they can be acquired, they can be retained, they can be nurtured, they can be served appropriately, right? So, and again, because of time, I'm going to be kind of quick about it, but these are sort of, so predictive analysis has brought a whole skew of tools where based on sort of your data and typically third-party data, you can build models where you can reveal the nature of these customers in very interesting ways, right? So let me give you some examples. So it turns out that, so in Mobilewalla, for instance, we work a whole bunch with food delivery companies, right? So it turns out that your a consumer's home to work commute distance turns out to be a very significant predictor of how much food the consumers orders at home, right? So in particular, we have found over and over again that customer with home to work commutes and this particular thing is from the UK, the numbers, the results, but but the results play out almost everywhere, right? The customers with home to work commutes of 15 plus miles are 10 times more likely to order food in than those with less than 10, right? So imagine how useful this is for customer relationship management, acquisition, retention for these companies, right? Rideshare companies, again, everybody knows rideshare companies, Uber, Grab, Ola, whatever. So it turns out that rideshare companies, the lifetime value of rideshare customers is one of the things that is most predictive of how much value a customer is likely to provide the company. There are several things. One of the most interesting things for me is the number of times that they are, okay, so I lost the screen, I lost the slides. So it turns out that for a rideshare company, the number—
You can't see, is it?
No, so Rohit can say, Rohit, can you see the deck? The deck sort of disappeared from my—
Yes, I can see.
I cannot. I see.
Let's just reshare it once and maybe it'll be better.
Yeah. Yes, it's there.
Yeah? Okay, cool.
So the number of times a person is seen at a non-home airport in the last 90-day period ends up being, so basically, ends up being highly predictive of how many dollars they're going to generate for the rideshare company in the next 6 months, right? So you can imagine when a rideshare company is looking to, acquire customers or looking to provide, let's say, discounts to their existing customers, this metric ends up being highly useful to them for differential treatment. All right, so let's move on. And what I wanted to show you is a little case study. So so this is work that we did with one of the largest food delivery companies in the world. And effectively what we tried to do for them is try to help them build portraits, right? So the problem that they were having is that they were using AI themselves, of course, but they were using AI, but the data they were using was their own first-party data, which is, they have every food delivery company has excellent data on sort of what people are ordering at what time. They have all this order data. And the portraits they were generating were not super useful in let's say, acquisition, right? So they knew that people that were ordering Chinese food more than 3 times a week were more valuable, were generating more value than others. But that was not useful for them, let's say, when they were acquiring, because outside of their ecosystem, they didn't know what kind of food they were ordering, right? So they needed a more generic sort of model, which we helped them build, by combining their data with our data. And what was sort of super interesting for this company, for this particular company, the sort of traditionally the high value to non-high value proportion in their customer base was 12-88, right? So 12% was high value and 88% was low value. So once we've gone through this and so that sort of increased to 14-86, right? So 14% high value, 86% non-high value. That 12 to 14% number might not seem too much, but if you think in context, it's basically a 1/6 or near 17% rise in overall number of high value customers in their customer base, right? Which is deep impact on the downstream numbers, right? Revenues and so on and so forth. So moving on, next use case. Acquisition and retention, right? So it plays with my high value customers. The acquisition retention is based on things that are more, yes. So you want to acquire customers that are likely to be high value and retain customers who are high value, but there's more. So companies, of course, want to acquire and retain their best customers because most customers contribute little to the top or bottom line, right? Again, predictive analysis has helped acquisition retention in multiple ways, right? So one way, of course, is identifying who the best customers are, which I showed just before this, and sort of allowing them to be treated differently. Like, for instance, in your customer base, if you know that these are my highest value consumers in my customer base, you can preemptively act to, take retention actions on them. But
so Anindya, I can see so many interesting questions in some of these case studies that you've been sharing.
Yeah.
And I am just wanting to ensure that probably we can take a few questions at the end. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if you'd like to, bring in the marketing perspective and then, take up maybe more case studies if we have time left later. Would that work?
Sure.
Yeah.
So Monica, I'll let you drive it. So I'm very happy to take questions, and I would rather actually take questions. So you keep me on track, right? I mean, if we run out of time, we can move on to Nikola, or we can get on to
Absolutely. So I suggest let's do the chat with Nikola, and then we will wrap it up with questions.
So you'd like me to go on now, or would you like me to take it?
Yes. We can chat with Nikola.
I will quickly. So I will be quick. So all I was saying is that the way predictive analysis helps in acquisition and retention is, of course, by allowing you to building models of high value customers, but also predictive analysis can also lead other kinds of patterns that are super useful. So here. So let me give you an example. So it turns out that household composition is a very, very, very key impactor of switching, right? So let me give you, because we are about to get a telecom presenter, let me give you a telecom example. So if you're a telecom company A and you're running acquisition campaign and you're looking to switch over customers from telecom company B, C, and D, right? So it turns out that a consumer who lives in a household where everybody uses the same telecom service provider that she uses is much less likely to churn than a consumer who lives in a household where people have other telecom carriers. It extends to everything. A shampoo brand, if you live in a house where somebody uses a different shampoo, you're more likely to use that shampoo than if everybody in the house uses the same shampoo, right? So super interesting. Lots of these patterns can come up that help acquisition and retention. Moving on. And again, this is, you know, I already described this. So basically this was how to, you know, so working with a rideshare company to help them acquire customers that are likely to provide more value in ways that I described. Let's move on. So segmentation advertising, you know, this is sort of what probably most people in this webinar will identify with. So all ad campaigns drive actions, right? You know, it could be build awareness, it could be drive conversion. So predictive analytics are increasingly used to enhance the quality of scale of these response actions. Basically, through a simple thing, right? You show an ad to somebody who's more likely to act, right? And that's the basis of almost, you know, it's a very, you know, simple statement with wide implications. But basically, you figure out, you use predictive analysis to figure out who's more likely to do what I want them to do, and you reach them. Next slide.
So maybe this is a good time for us to bring in Smart Friend. So we'll have some time to get his view.
Yes. So
yes.
Anyway,
So we'll move straight to the Smart Friend case study.
So let me then introduce the next speaker, and somebody who's a partner and a very good friend, right? So so the next speaker, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Nikola Sucevic, who's the chief data scientist at SmartFriend Telecom. Nikola leads the data analytics and data warehousing departments in SmartFriend, helping in strategy development for collection, manipulation of data analysis across various business functions. You know, he of course works majorly with marketing, helping in actions such as, you know, marketing functions such as customer experience, customer onboarding, you know, network operations, and so on. He has 20 years of R&D and management experience in the field of data science for the telecom industry. Before SmartFriend, he was at Geo, in fact. And he's also a regular speaker at conferences and industry events intentionally. On a personal note, Nikola is a great friend. The last time I met him, we spent very good time, Nikola, if you remember, at the rooftop of the Heritage Hotel. Welcome, Nikola. Over to you.
Okay, thank you for the nice introduction, and it was very interesting hearing your presentation. Thank you for joining this webinar. I will try to wrap up quickly into a couple of slides and one demo what we are doing with SmartFriend. Maybe do you want to share slides? Yeah, please. And then I will share the demo. So SmartFriend is the Indonesian company headquartered in Jakarta. It has about 13 million users at the moment, rapidly growing, and basically are doubling every year. And it's an amazing place to work. The same way as Geo was, it's something unprecedented happening in the market. We are fighting for growth, we are fighting for attention, and there is a lot of opportunities to exercise new ways of working, especially in marketing. I will just quickly introduce the concepts above the line and below the line when you are marketing over the TVs or you're marketing over sponsorships and events. But budget was often forgotten for this through the line marketing when you are actually going and seeing and directly communicating with the customers and making decisions based on the predictions. So maybe if you can go the next slide, please. So yeah, next slide. I was talking about this one. Next slide. Okay, so I will just mention here that we are going through digital marketing transformation. So we want to sell a lot more over the digital channels, and that's something that you will see in demo. That our effort is to get more customers on board through the digital because markets is changing. And I would just give one short thought about how do I see AI and ML. All this automation that is coming in the marketing, it's not enough to avoid this way of working where you are creating the product and it fails, and it's creating the product and it fails, and hit and miss. So we are loading our marketing campaigns using external and internal data with AI and ML algorithms. I see them something like a doping for the executives to go this extra mile. Basically, whenever we launch the product, we are just not giving up. We are just going until we make it successful. And this is something that, if you give the next slide, and then I will go quickly into the, please, next slide. Since we are fastest growing operator in the country, so I feel like we are at the moment as the airplane that took off, and we basically are still not in the autopilot time. So we just need to keep on going with every product we have. It just has to be enhanced, fixed, and the new one will be covering. So there is a lot of analysis, this so-called retention curves, adjustments, stickiness of the apps that we are launching, and so on. So there is a lot of AI that is used for this, because the amount of data is so complicated that usually I say to data scientists that work in my team, I said, okay, basically you will have to automate data science in the end. This cannot be the end job. The end job is actually a product that will look like a car, that you make these fast decisions to stay on the road. And this decision, dynamic decision making, it's something that we are all entering now. We have a lot of ideas. A lot of executives have these ideas of matrix type of boards where you can immediately predict something and see how this product is going to behave in the market. So there is no time anymore for miss. Whatever you do, try to hit as precise as possible in the beginning, but then you have to use AI and ML to keep you going extra mile to simplify work, to do the predictions and so on. And maybe this whole concept, without going any further, I think we have seen the very nice analysis of the market. I will concentrate here on this connection. Once that we have all this huge amount of data, how do we connect this to the actual decision makers, owners, the people that are running the company? Because data science and AI cannot run the company. Still, I would stress again, this is more like a pills and injections that you get on your meetings with the extra information and million types of you to keep on going and improving. So maybe on this point, I can share the slide, share my screen, just to show you what I mean with the dynamics. Okay. Okay, I hope you can see. So I will do the demo of the digital campaign planning board. So this is something that it's supposed to drive from the day 0 to the next 2-3 months, 200 days. Basically, it's something that is converting your static view. As you can see here, usually data, even external or the internal, is often presented as a static. You can see the customer distribution on the last day or on the first day. So basically, we are changing this to get this more dynamic view. It's like I would say running campaign is like developing something in the space and in the time, and the idea can come also from the point that how do you really connect with the executive or with somebody who is eager to make a decision, but he is not able to spread his thinking until you are refreshing the old types of dashboards and so on. So here it's one way of simplifying it. Let's say we have a use case, we have a starting point where we want to optimize. Let's say this is some imaginary operator that has 5 million users. We have a lot of rotational churners in the people that are coming in and out. These are the 10 years split on the day 1. this is a churn rate that we imaginary operator have. So it's applicable basically on any operator, number of customers that you are planning to grow, and then you have a target rates. Let's say your target rates would be, you want to reach 15% and so on. So what you can do, you can change dynamic parameters like percentage of the customers that you are acquiring, how many of them are rotational. So that means that your acquisition campaign will be adjusted. So your yellow or so-called good customers that you can see here on this site, as they are entering through the process, they might end up as a rotational good customers. And then finally, if you want to treat them, you can treat them as a patients, and you can improve their experience. You can retain them by offer, or in the end, if you don't do anything of that and they are prone to churn, they will churn. So the back end of something like this, there is also a different one that can be used for launching the product, is to create these functions that are running in the back end that are extracted from the history and they are projected in the future. So say you have a success of your campaign to rotational churners. You can get all of this, and then you can target. You are not setting the goals. You are actually setting your dynamic goals. You can say customers improve the experience per month. You can adjust the social network and so on. So let's say here we have a retention amount, or the how many customers you are accessing the retention. You have a starting day of the campaign. So let's say this is an ending day of campaign. Let's say we have a 200 days, a little bit more, and we want to reduce the churn. So dynamically, we will keep on increasing the customer experience improvement. We will reduce the number of churners, and basically, okay, so we are reaching on the day 150. We are supposed to reach our desired churn rate. That would be 15%. So each and every day can be exported and recorded. So this is just a couple of clicks that goes through the conversations. There can be a lot of parameters. Other apps would have different type of parameters. I used to like to play quite a lot with the music, like mixing the music and all this, and always like these analog devices because they were more interactive. And when the digital world came and so much data, there was no, it was very painful making decisions, even if you know what is the reason and why people are churning, you really cannot process this in your head. So AI here, it's connecting these dots, just making sure that you don't set the crazy goals that you cannot achieve mathematically. And then of course you can connect the money. So then it's practically easy. If you want to run your campaign for longer, you can see how much money, the money that is counting down there, it's not, here is just a dummy at the moment. This has to be entered by actually somebody who wants to invest the money. And basically adjusting something like this with the periods of 200 days or 300 days, as playing with these parameters can give you an idea of where you can realistically be if you do this or that. And this type of connection is kind of putting the driving board onto the car. You know, when we connect the car, initially it's so difficult to drive it and so on, but that was becoming simpler and simpler. Nowadays, we are talking about automated driving. For investing your own money, it's really pity that the complexity of the organizations, complexity of the decision making came to the point that basically you can be the smartest person in the world, but it's just so tiring. It's not about being smart, it's about that everybody's gonna get tired at some point. And AI is once again this special doping that keeps you going on for a while, even for the marketers or any type of people that are running the campaigns and long-term projects.
This is
So
absolutely fantastic. This is absolutely fantastic, Nicola.
Okay,
And
thank
in
you.
fact, we would have loved to do, an extended session, though we thought we'll take a couple of more minutes to, understand this very graphically well represented example you just shared with us. In fact, it did answer some of the questions we were just getting prior to you bringing the screen on, where there were attendees who were very keen to understand this in a graphical manner. And to understand how AI really benefits and the results it delivers. And I guess you pretty much addressed it without us having to take it up as a separate question. So thank you so much for that. We've also had questions on, whether whether the presentation will be shared, whether the recording will be shared. So just to answer that, yes, we will be sharing the presentation and the recording. And we will also attempt answering a lot of the questions that we've received in the questions panel. But in the interest of time, we probably will close the discussion here. And we'd like to say a big thank you to Anindya and Nikola for sharing AI and data in such a simplistic manner and really demystifying it in context of how it can be applied and how marketing programs can be made more effective, especially in today's new normal world, which is not going away. So with that, we'd like to bring the webinar to a close. I'd like to remind you that we have a series of webinars coming up in the next few weeks, which are flashing on your screen. So if you'd like to block your calendars for it, do so. And we do remain engaged with us through our newsletters, on our social media handles, and you are free to participate in any of the programs we're running, which you can see on your screen right here. So as we continue the journey to shape the future, remain tuned in with us. Thank you and have a lovely day and a lovely evening ahead. Thank you, Anindya. Thank you, Nicola, once again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.